This is how I took my very bad raggedy manicure into a gorgeous, cute, classy manicure. I use dip powder just because it's the easiest thing for me and it stays on for at least 2 weeks. So first, to take them off, I use an e-file, and an e-file just kind of buffs off that first shiny layer. You have to take your time with this just to make sure that the removal process will be easy and smooth. Once you're done, they should look like this, kind of gray, kind of dull. And I got these soaking containers from Amazon. They're so good. You're also going to need some cotton rounds. They can just be any type of regular cotton rounds, doesn't have to be anything fancy. And you also need some acetone. It has to be 100% pure acetone. Now in my containers, I pour some hot water and then I prep them by cutting my cotton rounds into half sizes. You don't have to do this, but I like doing it just because it makes it easier to wrap around my whole nail. Then you add the acetone to the cotton pad and then you place each cotton pad into the container. I like to add some extra acetone in the containers just to make sure my fingers get fully submerged. Now this is a new thing I started doing. I started using a little bit of oil to protect my hands before I soak in the acetone. Acetone can be very, very drying on your hands, so just having that extra barrier of oil helps. Now when I stick my fingers into the container, I like to wiggle them around just a little bit to loosen up my previous manicure. And this was after about 5 minutes. You can start to see the old color kind of coming off. So I just stick it back in there and I keep wiggling it. I like to take my time with this to make sure I get every single bit of my old manicure off. So this is about 12 minutes later. You're starting to see most of it coming off. If I don't want to go back in, I will just use my e-file to get the last remaining bits off of my nail. But you should be careful here because you don't want to completely remove all your nails off. This is what my nails look like once I've gotten everything off. And then I go in with a cuticle remover just to remove that extra gunky layer that we tend to have on our nails. Doing this step will make sure that your dip powder actually stays on your nails and don't pop off or don't crack off. I started doing my nails my own self because I'm very particular about how I want my nails to look. And oftentimes when I get it done, it's just not as perfect as I want it. So right after, I go in and I cut my nails down just because, as you saw, they were all different lengths, kind of looking crazy. But I go in and I cut them and I start to file them into the shape that I want. The filing process can be very tedious, but I feel like this is extra worth it because it'll give you the exact shape and style that you want. So since I'm going for a small rounded almond, I like to make sure that all my nails match up on both hands. So I'll file a little bit, cut a little bit, and then go back to double check that they're the exact same length. And I just like to use a dry brush to dust off any of the excess debris that was on my nails before I go into my next step. Since I have two nails, they're just a little bit shy of the length that I want. I am going to attach some extensions to each of them. You do not have to do this step because it's definitely an extra step and it does take time to get it right, but again, it's one of those things that's actually worth it. I like to use any type of nail glue, and these nail extension tips were from Amazon. They're the best ones that I found so far because they have the right thickness that feels very familiar to like your natural nail. Since these tips are going to be covered by dip powder anyway, I don't need a lot of glue, just enough to hold it down to my nail. And I like to hold it down for at least 60 seconds to make sure that they're going to stay in place and they won't break. Then once that's done, I like to go back in and cut and file the nails to the exact same shape and length as my other nails. Again, super important, tedious step. Just using a hand file over an e-file for this step because you want to make sure you can be precise with the shape. And you can see my nails are matching up already, and having that hand file just means that I can turn it at whatever angle I need and be very, very exact. I always like to have a sheet of paper to catch all the debris when I'm about to start dip powdering, but the first step is actually to dehydrate your nails. So this often comes in the kit that you're using, but this helps dry out all the oils on your natural nails. It will help the dip powder adhere better to your natural nail. You don't have to do a lot, just a few quick swipes will always work. Now for dip powder, I'm using the NA10. This is from Dipwell brand, and I just love this shade. I like to mix it up with a wooden spoon just to remove any clumps. Now most dip powder kits come with their own set, but I found this dip powder liquid set on Amazon and I figured I would try it out since it had everything already in it and all the items already labeled 1 through 4. So starting with the first step, this is the dip base. I like to add a very thin light layer onto my nails. As you notice, I'm swiping all the excess off before I'm painting my nail. Only need a few swipes for the first layer, and then I like to dip my finger into the powder at kind of a 45-degree angle to make sure the full nail is coated, and then I just tap off any of the excess powder. Again, I repeat the same process, swiping off any of the excess liquid and then going in and brushing my nail. As you'll notice, I'm really only focusing on the center of my nail because that's where you start to build a very natural looking base. Then you just take your time and you repeat each step for the process. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this whole process takes me 2 to 3 hours, but that means that I like to take my time and really focus. I love to put on a good cutesy movie, or I'll listen to some music in the background or a podcast. Then once you're done with dipping each nail for your first coat, I like to use a brush just to dust off any of the excess powder. This is what that first coat looks like. As you can see, it doesn't completely cover my nail, but it's set a really good foundation. Then for my second coat, I like to cover more of my nail to really get that full coverage and color that I want. As a girly, I love when my nails are done. They make me so happy just looking down and seeing a cute, fresh manicure. Once I'm done with that second layer, I'll dust off all the excess powder with my brush, and as you can see, I have way more coverage and the color is starting to show a lot more, so I'll move on to my right hand. The process is exactly the same. Those first few strokes are very light and thin and dipping it at a 45-degree angle. Then I tap off the excess and then I'll go ahead and do another coat. I've been doing my own nails for about 15 years and I pretty much know how to do every single type of nail style there is, but I always love dip powder because it seems to make my nails grow the longest and also keeps my nails looking healthy as possible. Once I'm done dipping all my nails, I'll go ahead and dust off all the excess powder just to make sure I'm getting every single thing off, and then I'll follow up with step 2, which is the activator. And your nails should look something like this. They almost look done, but we're not quite done yet. Now, the activator hardens the powder on your nails to make sure that they're actually going to stay there and they're not going to fall off, crack, chip, or any of those kind of things. You don't have to be perfect for the activator, you just have to get it on your nails, and I like to wait at least 2 minutes before I do a second coat of the activator. Now I'm bringing back my e-file just to finally reshape my nails because sometimes the dip powder makes your nails a little too thick, or you'll find some parts that are a little bit lumpy. The e-file will just smooth all that out and act like it never happened, and you can get a very even coat manicure. I'll use my hand file just to clean up any little mistakes just to make sure my nails have the perfect shape. And once I'm all done, they should look something like this. I love how crisp they look. The shape is perfect. And now I can finally go into my last step, which is step number 3, the topper. The most important thing for this final step is that you use fine, thin strokes, just like you did at the beginning, to make sure that the nail gets a nice, shiny, hard layer. I only do 2 coats of this final layer because if you do too many and it's too goopy, it'll take way too long to dry and you'll end up just messing up your manicure. So 2 coats is more than perfect. And that is everything. You are finally done. Look how stunning these nails look. They're going to last me at least 2 weeks.